Hey, how's it going? This is Joe and Tell. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the audio stack consisting of the Modi 3, the Loki, and the Vali 2. Before I get into it, I want to thank my Patreon supporters. Thank you to all you guys who support me there. It allows me to do these videos. If you're not already a Patreon, I would greatly appreciate it if you consider doing so. At the end of this video, I have a few clips from other YouTubers doing their impressions of me. Stick around and let me know if you think it's accurate. And if you're wondering where I got this shirt, I visited Audio's retail store, they call it. I did a live stream from there, and if you missed that, I'll link to it in the description. Let's look at the behind me, because the truth is, going into it, I wasn't sure if it was something that I needed or if it was something that I just wanted. But after listening to this for a few months, I think I came to a conclusion. So starting from the bottom to the top, we have a Modi 3 here on the bottom, and that's a DAC, digital analog converter. Then above that, we have the Loki, and that's a equalizer. I know a lot of people don't believe in equalizers. I do. And on the top, we have the Vali 2, and this is a tube headphone amplifier slash preamp. So I'm actually using it as both here on my desk. So I have an admission to make. When it comes to DACs, I can't really hear too much of a difference between the DACs. So on a phone, a lot of times they come with a bad amplifier section, and so when you upgrade the DAC, let's say if you get one of these ones that you plug in directly, it's upgrading the DAC but also the headphone amplifier. And so I'm not sure which one is benefiting more, whether it's the DAC or the amplifier. I know that there are websites out there that have measurements that show the differences in performance. The question I have is whether those differences that you can see on these graphs are noticeable by ear. One thing I should mention is that this DAC is $99, which is pretty low considering what it does, the build quality, and the fact that it is designed and built here in the US. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of people will say, well, it's 99 bucks, that's super cheap. Well, it's still 99 bucks, right? And it's cheap compared to some of the other DACs out there. But if you compare it to, let's say, the one that comes with your computer already, well, that one's free. So free to $99. It's up to you to determine whether you feel like that's worth it. Now, from my understanding, the DACs in the Mac computers are generally pretty good, and the one they're using here in the Modi is the AKM AK4490, which is actually the same one that's in this ZTE Axon 7. My main reason for using this phone is just as a music player, actually, and it's because it has that DAC and supposedly it's better. So the Modi 3 plugs in directly into your computer via USB. If you need more power, it actually has another port there in case your computer doesn't put out enough power. Mine does, so I don't have to use that. You also have the option of using the optical in, and what will happen is whether you bring in the audio from the optical or from the USB, it's going to spit out the audio in analog form via the RCAs in the back. So if I decided not to use the Modi 3, then I'd be outputting directly from my computer, and I'd use a 3.5mm to RCA cable. But the headphone jack on my computer actually doesn't work, so I really don't have that option. On my laptop, yes. This thing, no. The switch in the front will allow you to switch between the USB and the optical. So I was curious as to whether I could hear a difference between the Modi 3 and another DAC that I reviewed, the SMSL SK10. So I had the rest of the system hooked up exactly the same, except I switched out the Modi 3 for the SK10. And the first thing that I noticed is that I was hearing clipping, right? So I was playing music, and so I started adjusting the volume down, and I got it to a point where it wasn't clipping. And so this is digital clipping, meaning that I had the volume turned up a little too loud on the SK10, and so that's what was causing it. But it's just something to consider. With this Modi 3, there is no volume control on here, so there's nothing to really worry about. It's matched up perfectly with the rest of the components, so just one less thing to worry about. Again, I'm not a guy who claims to know all kinds of stuff about DACs. I'm not sure that it's the place where I would choose to spend my money initially. If I needed to improve my sound, if it was between using my computer speakers or spending $100 on a DAC versus $100 on some actual powered speakers, regardless of what type they are, I think the powered speakers would give you more benefit in the short term. Let's move up to the second thing here, and this is the Loki, and it's a 4-band equalizer. I've talked about equalizers before, and I've talked about how audiophiles are not about equalization. I actually showed this whole setup at these show, and when I told people about the equalizer, there were a lot of audiophiles that were just like, can you bypass that? Which is something that's an option. That's a switch up here. You can just bypass the whole thing, which is handy if you're testing settings, so you can tweak it and then get it to the point where you think it sounds good, turn it off, see if it actually sounds better. But back to my story, yeah, there were a lot of audiophiles there that were just like, ugh, they're poo-pooing it, you know what I mean? They just didn't like the idea that I would put an equalizer in the mix. Okay. I won't say too much more about that. If you want technical specs on all of these things, I would encourage you to take a look at their website because it has the specific frequencies that this affects. And it's cool because they have graphs there that show you specifically how each knob works. But generally speaking, the way I think about it is that the first knob here is for the lower bass frequencies, right? The second knob is for the mid bass. So let's say somebody who has a voice with a lower register, this will affect that. And then you have your upper mids, which is, let's say, you know, the higher end of the vocal range. And the last one is for the upper treble. So it's in that range that gives you that sense of air, that sense of presence. And yeah, so you can tweak each one to your liking. The reason I like using an equalizer is because speakers are just inherently not perfect. But even more so, speakers act differently in different locations. So as you can tell, I have my speakers, the Dynas, and they're very close to the wall because that's where I have to put them. If I could bring them forward, I would prefer to do that, but right now I can't. And so now that I have them back against the wall, it enhances the bass a little bit too much, so I can turn that down if I want to. I can make these minor adjustments to my personal taste, and I don't see anything wrong with that. I think equalizers are awesome. I think everybody should have an equalizer. This is not something that I think everybody needs, but it's pretty cool to have. One thing I need to really make sure to talk about is just the build quality. The way that this stuff looks, the fact that it matches my iMac, I think these look awesome. The build quality is awesome. I'm really enjoying the way they look. And that plays a big role in how I feel about it. I have to look at it all the time. So does that affect the sound? The fact that it looks cool? Nope, it doesn't. Does it matter to me? Yep. Should it matter to you? I don't know. So recapping, we have the Modi 3 connected via USB directly to the computer. That's outputting analog to the Loki, and that's doing the equalization. And from there, that goes RCA out to the Vali 2. So the Vali 2 is a headphone amplifier, and that's useful if you want to connect headphones. This is more than enough power to drive some of the headphones that I have lying around. I don't have any super fancy ones that are super hard to drive or anything like that, but from my experience, this was more than enough power to power any of my headphones. But this also acts as a preamp, which is cool because I prefer to listen on speakers rather than headphones. That's just me. This does have the option to use other speakers, and so I am using this setup here with the Dynas. On the back of this, there's a switch to be able to choose high level or low level, and normally I kept it on high, except for the fact that I noticed that these speakers are very sensitive, meaning I couldn't turn this down low enough for nighttime listening. And so I switched it to low mode, fixed it all up, everything's perfect. So if you have this, play around with those settings and see which one is more suitable for your listening situation. You may also notice that this is a tube, and I've said it before, I love the way the tubes sound. I feel like it rounds out the sound, and it's just something that I enjoy. Is it less accurate than solid state? Yes. Is it something I prefer? Yes. Now, if you prefer solid state, which a lot of you seem to based on this poll that I did, then you do have the option of getting the Magni 3, which is basically the same thing except without the tube. The price on the Vali 2 is $149, and the price on the Magni is $50 less, $99. I don't know if you guys are old enough, but back in the day, people used to have stereo racks, and they used to have this special case that you'd put everything in, and you'd have your tape deck on the bottom, you'd have your receiver, equalizer, maybe turntable on the top. And so this kind of reminds me of that setup, except miniaturized for your desk. And I like that. I like that it's a stack. Is it weird? I don't know if you noticed, but there's a pattern here. And that is that none of the stuff is really stuff that I need. Aside from the fact that my headphone jack on my computer is not working, I wouldn't necessarily need this. In my case, I do. But the equalizer, do I need the equalizer? No, I would be able to play sound out of my speakers without that. It just wouldn't be to my personal taste. I do notice a big difference between when I use it and when I bypass it, and I prefer it on. So the Vali 2, do I need a tube preamp? Do I need a headphone amplifier? If my headphone jack was working on here, the answer would be no. I wouldn't need that. I could just plug into the back of this. Is this more powerful than this? Yes. Would that matter if I had some better headphones? Probably. But my whole point is that none of this stuff is really stuff that I would need. And I think that's the beauty of it. I like all this stuff. It's something that I want. I like having it on my desk. I love being able to tune my system, and I just like the way that it looks and feels. And that's just me. Not everything is a need. Some things are wants, and that's a good thing. Now, before I go, I would like to mention a few cons. And one is that people are saying that this light is just too bright. It's not really a problem for me, but I've heard people complain about that. The other thing is I wish that the switch to turn it on and off was in the front, because I always have to reach back here in order to turn that off for both this Loki and the Vali 2. I wish there was just an easier way, maybe a switch in the front here. That's about it. They also sent these to me with these cool custom RCA cables, and I think that they look awesome. They're just the right length, they're bendy enough, they're just perfect. So if you get this stack, if you get anything from them and you need RCA cables, just get them. Just trust me. They look cool, they work well, they're awesome. It's rare that I don't mind seeing cables. So that's pretty much it. That's my review of the Schiit audio stack. Let me know in the comments below whether you have this system, whether you're interested in it, and whether you believe in DACs, whether you believe in EQ, and whether you like a tube sound or a solid state sound. So after this, I'm gonna show you that video that I promised of Chana, aka Techno Dad, doing his impression of me, as well as Ron from New Record Day. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Is this accurate?
Hey, what's up guys? This is Chon and Tel, and I've got some speakers for you to review. And I know it's pretty dark here because background's all messy, and you know, sometimes I like it when I get scared looking over my shoulder. Someone might come out at me. Anyway, I'm going to, review these speakers, and we're going to measure them. First, I'm going to calibrate the microphone by farting on it and seeing how that curve is flat.
Hey yo, what's up? This is Joe from Joe and Tel, and today we're going to be talking about Panasonic cameras. Does anybody have a flashlight? Did you guys hear that? I think that was a dog.
I'm outdoors, so sorry if you hear crickets or...
Heard a dog. Yeah, so anyway, you know, Panasonic cameras, when you're traveling into the mines of Moria, because it's so damn dark, you can use a Panasonic. So yeah, it's pretty cool, you know, it's pretty cool.
Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye. I like the knob feel on these. That doesn't sound right.